Final judgment and civil orders signed with finalized addendums. Description: when you applied for a marriage license, a private, for-profit franchise of the United Nations doing business as the state of ____ claimed a interest in your marital relationship and the products resulting from it. On the basis of your own signature, this entity secretively claimed to own you, your wife, and your children as chattel. According to them, when you apply for a marriage license, the nature of the marriage contract changes and becomes a marriage is a civil contract to which there are three parties, the husband, the wife and the state. Van Coten versus Van Coten. 154 NE 146. To give a foreign privately owned corporation merely calling itself the state of ____ permission to distribute your assets in a divorce, force you to pay alimony and child support, and to seize custody of your. Were these results of signing a marriage license ever disclosed to you by the state? Did the state disclose its identity and nature as a franchise of a required to have a marriage license to be lawfully married, but was that fact ever fully disclosed to you by the state? You have the absolute right to rescind your signature from any contract that existed at all, and all payments and other asset distributions exercised under it are subject to return to the lawful owners, plus reasonable interest. You are not obligated by any contract obtained under conditions of fraud, deceit, or non-disclosure. The state is culpable for its failure to disclose any demand that you produce a marriage license as a prerequisite to access services and benefits to which you are otherwise entitled, such as medical insurance coverage for your spouse, or illegal monopoly inducements. In the presence of God, Pope Francis, and the world, let it be known to all living and dead, and to all those responsible for administration of the affairs of the living and dead, that all commercial contracts ever actually or presumptively existing between the living man known to the public as James Clinton, Belcher, and the living woman known to the public as Anna Maria Riesinger, and their similarly named estates in minor, the city-state of Westminster, United Nations, the United States, Federal Reserve, International Monetary Fund, IMF, and all their respective franchises, agencies, and departments, including the state of Alaska and state of Alaska, are all and uniformly invalidated for semantic deceit and non-disclosure. All signatures of the living man and woman are rescinded from all documents in the possession of any of these incorporated entities which claim or seek to claim any beneficial commercial interest in them or their estates, or which claim any representative capacity related to them, or all interest, good faith service, and accrual on investment owed to the living people as the beneficiaries and entitlement holders of their own estates as due and owed to them and their heirs without exception or prejudice by the officers and administrators of the United States of America, minor, the city-state of Westminster, and the United Nations. Be it also known that these and other individual American nationals now exercise their birthright upon the land of the organic states united by the Articles of Confederation, 1781, and that they have the full and unimpeded right to act as judges of these organic states, to issue orders related to their administration, and to demand compliance with all articles of the National Trust Indenture and Commercial Service Contract known as the Constitution for the United States of America, and all related international treaty provisions owed to us by the United States of America, minor, and the United Nations and the city-state of Westminster, and any successors, executors, administrators, corporate officers, elected or appointed officials, trustees, agents, agencies, franchises, franchise operators, and employees thereof, now and in perpetuity. 2. all concerned and all recipients of final notice dated February 3, 2014. 55 days have passed without any sworn affidavit in rebuttal of the facts presented by the final notice of commercial and administrative default issued to the individuals, persons, and institutions responsible for default. All have been promptly and properly notified of misadministration of the public trusts established in the names of living Americans and the organic American states by incorporated entities doing business as the United States of America, Inc. and the United States, Inc. and their trustees, officers, employees, and agents who are under contract to provide governmental services to those harmed under law of the sea. The claims and demands presented by the final notice of commercial and administrative default dated February 3, 2014 are decided in issued by Pope Francis acting as trustee of the Global Estate Trust on July 11, 2013, has been presented to all directly interested parties in Alaska via ancient edict of notice. Notice to principals is notice to agents and notice to agents is notice to principals. The United States of America, minor, and the Federal Reserve Banks DBA the United States of America, Inc. and the United Nations City-State and its agency the International Monetary Fund IMF, DBA United States, INC, and its State of Alaska franchise are commanded and required under contract to the Global Estate Trust to perform according to the Constitution for the United States of America and to cease and desist action against the American people and the organic American states, including Alaskans and the Alaska state created by the Alaska Bar Association, its members, the various court administrators, and the Alaska Judicial Council have been similarly notified and ordered to cease and desist practices, presumptions, and procedures which serve to defraud living Americans and lay false claims against their private property assets under pretense of war and color of law. The entities addressed under final notice of commercial and administrative default dated February 3, 2014 are all competent to recognize their culpability and failure to perform under commercial service contract, failure to honor the national and state trust indentures, and failure to provide full and free disclosure of contracts solicited by the named governmental services corporations and agencies cited for default. Absent a fully disclosed and actual maritime contract entered in evidence and subjected by the court to examination and open discussion, no valid contract can be presumed to exist, and no American estate or other vessel can be prosecuted under any maritime or no contract based on unilateral, uninformed, undisclosed, or otherwise prejudicial claims of residency, benefit, status, license, mortgage, or other contract lacking true equitable consideration and consent can be maintained with regard to the estates of American nationals who are living inhabitants of the land and air jurisdictions of the Global Estate Trust, and not naturally subject to the jurisdiction of the sea. All such American nationals who are inhabitants of the land and their estates are additionally protected by treaty and national trust and are owed safe conduct for themselves and their commercial vessels on the high seas and navigable inland waterways. For military tribunal purposes, all American nationals, American persons, and commercial vessels are all provost marshals, all members of the civilian police forces, all members of the American military, all members of state-operated National Guard units, all members of government agencies including the U.S. Marshals Service, FBI, state troopers, BLM, BATF, IRS, and other code enforcement agents are ordered to recognize the civil authority of the organic 50 states created by statehood compacts and united under the Articles of Confederation, and to also Recognize the absolute civil authority of the American people inhabiting these organic and geographically described states in all matters pertaining to them and the administration of their domestic government on the land known as the United States of America, major, not to be confused with the United States of America, minor, which is a foreign, maritime entity under commercial contract to provide governmental services for the United States of America, major. All police and military officers are obligated to honor the or pertaining to the organic states and their living inhabitants without exception, noting that these people and states are owed the terms and conditions of the original equity contract known as the Constitution for the United States of America, are to be addressed under exclusively, and that they retain their natural and unalienable rights, including their identity, property rights and controlling interests, and monopoly inducement practiced against them in breach of trust and contract default. All actions of the various probate courts operating in maritime jurisdictions and merely presuming death based upon the inaction of American national beneficiaries of the American Republic and serving to establish maritime salvage liens against their estates are by these orders invalidated, made null and void. All American nationals whose names and estates are presently included on tax rolls, and who are recorded by census data, school records, birth, death certificate signed by the local coroner stating cause of death, date, time, and place, corroborated by at least 2 responsible and knowledgeable living witnesses. In the case of legitimately missing people, diligent search and fully disclosed publication of all claims against their estates must be made by giving notice to the last known address and next of kin. Any contrary presumption or practice is fraudulent, null and void. Any action of the probate courts operating in maritime jurisdictions and making claim upon actual real assets of similarly named American nationals in behalf of legal fiction, missing persons, owned by the United States of America, Inc., United States, Federal Reserve, or any franchises or agencies thereof, are similarly rendered null and void. Once created legal fictions do not have any necessary or valid estate, such estate as they may legitimately be granted must be obtained under conditions of fully revealed and disclosed contract entered into voluntarily and with explicit individual understanding and consent. Any estate obtained by legal fiction entities by process of semantic deceit or undisclosed contract belongs in fact and law to those defrauded. These civil orders command and require the return of all titles to land, homes, properties, and businesses which have been held under color of law by the Federal Reserve doing business as the United States of America, Inc., and their bankruptcy trustee, the Secretary of the Treasury of Puerto Rico, and their administrative agents, including the custodian of alien property and the Comptroller General. All separate registrations under the Shepard-Towner Act and the Selective Service Act of American nationals and their progeny by agents of the United States of America, minor, DBA the United States of America, Inc. and its various state franchises and subsequently maintained by state franchises of the United Nations and the International Monetary Fund, are invalid as a class for anything but traditional recording purposes and the benefit of any securities based in whole or in part upon these and any other involuntary or undisclosed registrations such as of all commercial vessels operated under their given names by any corporation providing governmental services operated under the names of American nationals are owed full treaty and trusteeship obligations from the United States of America, minor, and the United Nations and all franchises in agencies which these nation-states operate worldwide. These civil orders command performance delivering unto Caesar upon the land, including Return of all real assets and property owed to American nationals free of claim, debt, and encumbrance created under conditions of fraud, breach of trust, and breach of commercial. All judges, attorneys, clerks, and other employees of incorporated courts and court systems, together with the international banks employing them, who have knowingly failed to fully and freely disclose their nature, identity, status, jurisdiction, standing, and venue are subject to international criminal prosecution for felony fraud under full commercial liability, and officers of the law and military officers who enforce illegal actions ordered by these in-house international commercial tribunals against American nationals at the request of any such court are responsible for war crimes committed against non-combatant civilians as of September 1, 2013. All politicians and trust management organization employees acting directly or via franchisor agency who have been elected or appointed to private corporate offices within governmental